So this is another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast. I'm Jared.
I'm Brandon.
Coming off Elimination Chamber, and one guy you haven't seen on TV in a while made it official today why you won't be seeing him on TV in WWE in the future. All that and more as the Heel to the Face podcast for another week starts right now.
Fans celebrate with me from Rome to Rochester.
Bad luck seems to be my middle name. They might as well tag me up with my buddies from Syracuse.
So this is another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast. Make sure you are following us at Heel to the Face because you might get some videos like I posted this past weekend. Just a quick little recap of Elimination Chamber just a few minutes after it happened. And more importantly, come WrestleMania, I'm going to be prepared this time too. Come WrestleMania weekend, 4 straight nights from what I know now. I'm not going to go out there and challenge anyone to do this, but to kind of put up something against our podcast. But as of right now, the only Central New York podcast to be represented and be uploading videos from Dallas.
Love it.
From the Hall of Fame, WrestleMania, and the Raw after WrestleMania. Like I said, I don't want to challenge anybody so that they're like, oh yeah, well, we're going to go to Dallas and we're going to do the same. So I'll just say for now, we're the only one. But either way, we're going to be doing it regardless. So we're going to be live in Dallas. And more importantly, we're going to be doing our podcast every single week leading up to WrestleMania and after WrestleMania, and
per usual. For the last 5 years now.
Per usual for like the last 5 years, as you say. So make sure you are following us on Twitter for all the links to that.
I think we just surpassed our 5-year anniversary. I think it just came up.
February of 2017, I believe.
Wow.
We started as a big build-up to WrestleMania 33 in Orlando.
We did. Look where we are now.
Look where we are now. As I kind of alluded to on last week's show, obviously there's a lot to get to. New this week, the whole Undertaker getting inducted, that pretty much popped right as soon as we recorded for the previous week.
Of course it did.
We'll get all that and more, but I alluded to last week, I had something to say, and I'm going to start off, we're going to start off right there. Now, there is no secret here that I have an opinion about something, and one thing I will say about the previous 2 WrestleManias is agree to disagree. There's opinions that are essentially, they're not wrong because they're opinions. I personally am a fan of one night of WrestleMania. That is something that is well documented, but I can see, especially for the last 2 years, why there had been 2-night WrestleManias. We talk about the COVID year, why 2-night WrestleMania. I didn't want it to happen, but if it happened, 2 nights makes sense. There was no other programming on television. You can spread it all out, especially for the fact that they had to tape matches so broken up, with some people taping on one day, some people taping on the next. That understands. Last year, the return to crowds. I can understand why that was 2 nights. Still wish it was 1 night, but from a WWE perspective, you're flying in from out of town. There were no other wrestling shows going on. So WWE says, listen, if you're going to fly in from wherever you're flying in, and we have no Hall of Fame, no Raw, no Smackdown, might as well spread this out over 2 nights. Because again, we got nothing else to offer you. So make it worth your flight. Make it worth your hotel accommodations to come to Tampa and spend at least 2 nights here. Don't just drive in, go to the show, and drive home. Make it an actual WrestleMania weekend. Now, this year, we all know is going to be 2 nights, and it seems like WrestleMania is returning to normal. And I said this in the past, that people are not very cognizant of the future. They're like, you know what? This really worked now. Let's keep doing this. And I kept saying, no, things are going to catch up. The pandemic's going to end. This is going to be kind of dumb in the future to have WrestleMania being 2 nights. I don't like long WrestleManias like everybody else at home, but the solution is not to make it 2 nights. And now we are seeing exactly what I am talking about. Obviously, we see that on Friday night, the night before WrestleMania's nights 1 and 2, we have the Hall of Fame and Smackdown combined together into one big show. Now, I don't necessarily know if that's a product of 2-night WrestleManias. Either way, I'm not a real big fan of that, especially for the fact that, someone like The Undertaker, I feel he deserves more of a proper ceremony. But one thing I've noticed is that tickets for The Undertaker's WrestleMania haven't been the hottest selling. But again, part of the reason could be is because there's a lot of other wrestling going on. All the wrestling that comes into Dallas or wherever WrestleMania is takes Sunday night off, takes WrestleMania night off. They're like, we won't even be there. You got that all to yourself. But when it comes to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, these companies are there and they want to make money. They can't just sit idly by. They got to run shows, and you got a lot going on at once. But that's actually not the major complaint I'm coming up with here. The major complaint to WrestleMania being 2 nights is going to be seen as something that hasn't been made official yet. But NXT Takeover is going to return to crowds. They are going to return to hitting the road, and they're going to return to WrestleMania weekend. But when? When can you fit them in? How about noon on Saturday? So all of you fans out there who said, WrestleMania 2 nights, it's so much better. Who wants to sit through 6 hours of wrestling in one night? Wouldn't you rather see 2 nights of wrestling instead of none? As if, like, again, SmackDown, Raw, none of these things were going to return when the pandemic ended. Now you got it. You didn't want 6 hours of wrestling? You got it. Noon to 3 NXT, get into your car, go to AT&T Stadium, 7 to 10, you got yourself WrestleMania. That sounds to me like 6 hours of wrestling in one day. So anybody who attends NXT TakeOver in downtown Dallas and then attends WrestleMania, I don't want to hear them telling me that 6 hours of wrestling in one day is too much, because they're going to do it.
Well, here's the problem. Why wouldn't you put NXT by itself, stand alone on a Saturday, and then have a one-night WrestleMania?
Well, yes, that would be the better solution.
We're post like the real tough part of the pandemic. I get the luster of, this past year in 2021 where the crowds were back. I get it. You want to do 2 to get the fans, to make it feel great.
And you also had limited capacity.
It's true. You had limited capacity. But the year before, no crowds. Sure, whatever. I agree with you on everything. You got to go back to one night WrestleManias. You go Saturday night NXT, you go Sunday night, you go WrestleMania, and Friday. Why not just make? I was doing more thinking about it, especially with the Undertaker. Why not have just a Hall of Fame show that night instead of SmackDown?
Yeah, and I understand people saying, well, that you're obligated to run SmackDown on Friday night because of the contract. I'm not saying run SmackDown and not run Hall of Fame and not have SmackDown. Like, use that 2-hour block of time. That 2-hour block of time, the Hall of Fame is now on Fox, on national television, instead of being on Peacock. It's also, like I've said to many people before, including yourself, is that it actually adds to the Hall of Fame, adds to WrestleMania weekend itself. Because if you're flipping through the channels and you're not somebody who traditionally watches wrestling, and the reason you're on Fox is to try to get those mainstream eyeballs of people who don't normally watch wrestling to kind of put it on because it's on a national
channel. People are wearing
their
best clothes.
So you literally tune out, you're flipping through and you see wrestling and you're just like, oh, that's a typical Friday night. Let's keep flipping through. Wrestling's on Friday night.
But if you see a red carpet,
you see everyone dressed up, all of a sudden you're going to be like, I heard WrestleMania was this weekend, and it's going to kind of catch your eye. If I flip through on a Saturday night when I'm expecting to watch football and I see football players all dressed up, I see in a big award ceremony, it tells me there must be this must be surrounding a bigger event. Like the NFL honor ceremony or something like that.
I was just going to say, you stole my thunder on that. I was going to say, because they had the NFL honors the Super Bowl weekend. So that worked. In to the normal person that maybe doesn't watch NFL, they see, as a Cowboys fan, they saw Michael Parsons dressed up. Oh, I wonder why he's dressed up. He's not in his uniform.
Non-football. It kind of amplifies the weekend. The fact that, like I've said before, the Roman Reigns, the Drew McIntyres, the Bobby Lashley's, anybody who's competing at WrestleMania, when the flight lands in Dallas, the eyes and the training should be 100% on the matches at WrestleMania. We shouldn't have this essential house show the night before WrestleMania with pretty much meaningless matches. And I'm not saying they won't do something like they did last year and throw in a WrestleMania match on SmackDown or something like that, which is dumb because you have 2 nights. So you're really dragging it if you add to a 3rd night of WrestleMania matches. But it feels like a house show. I'm not attending the SmackDown the night before WrestleMania because I want to attend a SmackDown. I don't ever want to attend a SmackDown prior to any pay-per-view. It's the go-home show. There's not really much more to do.
Nothing's happening.
It's personally, I'll be there because of Undertaker, because of the Hall of Fame, because I want to be a part of that.
Yeah, I knew as soon as Taker, they said, yep, he's going in. This is how we're doing it. I knew right away. I was like, well, that's a change of plans for Jared because I don't think Jared's.
I might have gone to the Ring of Honor show.
Yeah,
Ring of Honor show that night, or even Impact Wrestling's running a show that night.
But it's Taker.
It is Taker.
It's Taker. Taker's one of those dudes that, if you're going to be in town, you don't go to Ring of Honor instead of Taker.
Yes, I personally think that and again, now we're talking, I don't know how they're going to run the Hall of Fame. I still at this time don't know if Undertaker will be the only induction.
Why run it the way they're going to do it? They're going to do and
it's going to be late. We're talking now, it's after SmackDown, so Undertaker's speech is going to start at 11 o'clock on the East Coast?
Why the hell not have it on the 8 to 10 slot on Friday night on Fox.
Prime time, Undertaker is speaking. You flipping through the channels on a Friday night, and you see the Undertaker at a podium talking about his career at 9 o'clock Eastern time in the heart of prime time.
You may get some fans that
you're going to get some non-wrestling fans tuned into that.
Not only non-wrestling fans, but maybe the Attitude Era wrestling fans that maybe have tuned out, in the last, handful of years. They're like, oh, Undertaker, man, that brings back some memories from when I was a kid. Let me check it out.
Yeah, you're gonna get that, and you're not gonna get it if you have it on at 10 o'clock, moving into the late evening hours on a streaming service like Peacock.
They're dropping the ball on this. They're dropping the ball on this because they did essentially a Michael Jordan style documentary on the career and the life and times of Undertaker, and then you're gonna put him after SmackDown on Friday, not even on a main network.
Yeah.
That to me is a slap in the face to everything Undertaker's doing.
It's a conjoining show. This isn't
ridiculous.
This isn't me dressing in my best, going into the WWE Hall of Fame with the Undertaker on the marquee. This is me going to a WWE Smackdown, where after Smackdown goes off the air, then you're going to set up a podium real quick, as between shows, and maybe add some awnings and buntings and some nice accoutrements, so the Undertaker can come out and chit chat for a little bit. Like it seems like not like a night dedicated to him. The NFL Honors isn't some sort of like post-game thing where like after the game's over, you see the players like still in their uniforms. Like I'm wondering the Roman Reigns of the world. Let's say he has to be in a 6-man tag match the night before, and then he's obviously performing at WrestleMania, regardless whether it's Saturday night or Sunday night. He might not even stick around. He might get back, be literally sweating, be in his his wrestling gear, and say, "Listen, I gotta wrestle tomorrow. I gotta do autograph signing first thing in the morning. It's 10 o'clock at night. I just got done wrestling. I'm heading back to the hotel, calling it a night. I'm not gonna go pick up the family. Gonna get everybody down here and dress up all fancy and turn it around and go sit down for this."
Yeah, to me, it's just I think they're booking it very poorly. This Undertaker is one of the most recognizable names and figureheads of this business. I just think they're doing him they're doing ill justice to him because of what he's brought to the business and just who he is. He's not even the most casual wrestling fans, even people that don't even watch wrestling at all. They know who Undertaker is. Mm-hmm. And if you're not going to put him on Fox, I bet you that'll get you better ratings than a go home SmackDown. Let's be honest. It's the Under freaking Taker. Yeah, not Seth freaking Rollins. Under freaking Taker. That is somebody who will get ratings better than a go home, nobody gives a crap SmackDown.
And not seeing actual wrestling will whet your appetite to then want to tune in for the next night where there is lots of wrestling. Not seeing The Miz in a match or not seeing Kevin Owens in a match will whet your appetite for his actual match. It's one of those things, and wrestling is the only kind of thing that has this. You would never whet your appetite for a Floyd Mayweather fight with a Floyd Mayweather fight. Like you would the night before, you would never whet your appetite for the Super Bowl with 6 hours of watching football games. It is the talk about the hype about this game. You wet it with all the extra stuff that goes with it. When you show up to the Super Bowl, there are no other football games around. It's talk about football.
Well, here's the thing.
It's football fan fest. It's things that are unrelated to football.
So nothing
overshows the game.
With big fight feels, what they do is, and it's done on purpose, boxing, UFC, they have the stare downs, they have the weigh-ins the night before, and then obviously for show they're gonna shove each other just to get more people to buy the pay-per-view just to sell it. So to me, when it's like you're running a show times two. It's, to me, the show should be just a Hall of Fame. That's the way they're doing it. It's just ridiculous. Now, I want to mention there's one competitor who's been in WWE for many years that is not going to be there this year because he just left the company. Who was that again?
Well, we'll talk about Mr. Cesaro.
Why don't we just talk about it right now?
All right. Okay.
I want to talk about it now because for once, I texted you an hour before we come in to record, and I'm like, hey, we finally got some breaking news before we record, not after we record. And that is Cesaro is no longer in WWE. His contract expired. They did not work out terms of a new deal. He is a free agent, which means, hypothetically speaking, he could show up on Rampage tomorrow night. I know it's already taped. I know, but hypothetically speaking, he could show up.
He could show up on Impact tonight if that wasn't taped.
Exactly. And here's the other thing: maybe speculation. Revolution's around the corner. I'm just saying. I know everybody says, "Oh, anybody that leaves WWE is going to AEW." I'm not saying he's going to AEW. I can see him in New Japan, but there's a non-compete that doesn't exist because the contract
wasn't broken.
Yeah. Exactly. The contract wasn't broken. He let his contract expire, and guess what? And hypothetically, if he wanted to show up on Dynamite next week,
and it's
cool.
hard to agree on terms when they just left you out of the Royal Rumble. We haven't seen you on TV in a while. Like normally, these contracts are signed. The Kevin Owens of the world, the Sami Zayns of the world. When you're midst of something good, when you're like, I'm on a good run right now. Yeah, let's keep this going. Let's make sure we're keeping it going.
Yeah, AJ just got a big deal.
When you're just sitting on the sidelines doing essentially nothing, what did you expect?
Well, Vince McMahon has never been highly favorable of Cesaro. He's never seen the star that we all see in Cesaro. I don't know. It's Vince McMahon being Vince McMahon, of course, but Cesaro's a star. Everybody with two eyes, besides Vince McMahon, realized this guy's pretty freaking good. And before we recorded today, I was already going through Twitter, and I saw a lot of big names going through and giving him some love. Not like, obviously they're currently employed with WWE, so they're not going to dig at WWE by any means. Mm-hmm. But like Seth Rollins put something out, Becky Lynch put something out. There's a litany of superstars that have already, put something out there, to show their love and respect for Cesaro. Because to me, WWE just dropped the ball. All these years you had somebody as good as him, and you did nothing with him. To me, that is just darn wrong. That's ridiculous.
Just add another name to Roman Reigns' long, illustrious title run of people he's defended his belt against on pay-per-view, whom are no longer with the company.
And here's the thing. That list might be growing over to AEW side because as we just saw this past Dynamite this week, another former WWE star or superstar, Buddy Mathews, formerly Buddy Murphy, is also on AEW, which I got to get your take on this. I absolutely love the fact that they tied in Aleister Black, now Malachi Black, and Buddy Murphy, now Buddy Mathews. They kind of tied in that feud they had, like that
in the Indies, or not in the Indies, but past post WWE or like end of WWE, post WWE, moving in AEW.
Yes, it was just the history they've had together, and the commentators were like, "Oh, what's going to happen here? We know they got some history here. They've had a long history together against each other." And he's in the House of Black, it seems like.
Joined up, essentially.
How do you feel about that?
Personally, I'm not going to lie. When Buddy Murphy made his debut in AEW, it's sad to say, but and this ties in with Cesaro and a lot of other people, you forget that they're not already there. Because there's every week we're getting debuts, and it seems like everybody.
But that was fun.
It's been a minute since he hasn't been in WWE. You've seen him a little bit on the Indies, and you've seen him doing other stuff. So you kind of did forget that. Oh yeah, he hasn't officially made it to AEW yet.
But I thought the way they did it was great. I thought, when the lights came from black, they faded back to the light. I was like, whoa, the crowd popped. He got a good pop. You hear the Buddy chants. He's getting a pop because he's another guy. I wouldn't say he's on Cesaro's level, but he's a guy that people know he's talented. He's got the right skill set. He just needs to be. They need to push him, and WWE didn't do the same thing with Cesaro. They didn't push this guy, so the fans are like, "Oh, good. Maybe they can push him in AEW, or maybe they'll just kind of have him doing Adam Cole stuff right now." I know Adam Cole's got the title coming up. But Adam Cole at this point, aside from the match coming up with Hangman, all he's really doing is being like the guy who puts his hands on both sides, say Young Bucks, Red Dragon. Come on, guys, you can't fight. Let's get along. Is that what Adam Cole really signed up for?
No, and
I know he's getting the title match. I get it.
We're building up to the title match in about 2 weeks at Revolution, which is crazy to think it's about a week and a half essentially from taping of the show.
Speaking of that, though, Revolution, these promos leading up to Revolution this past week on Dynamite, MJF. What else can you say? That's a fire promo. You had Eddie, you had Y2J or Chris Jericho. Now he's going. He's got like a new nickname. I can't keep track of all the different nicknames he has now. But that segment right there, that promo was fantastic. I thought Dynamite was Dynamite this past week. It was probably one of the best shows I've seen in a while for Dynamite.
I think they knock it out of the park every single week, and they also have some more people coming their way, as we've then good or bad or whatever, they have the roster is going to be expanding. WWE's roster is always shrinking. AEW's roster is always expanding. But at a fan fest, per interview, Jeff Hardy has made it official that both Hardy boys will be in another organization, because we've already seen him in Ring of Honor, Impact, WWF, WWE, many indies around the world, and now they'll both be together in AEW once Jeff Hardy finally makes it official and joins AEW, which he said he will be doing shortly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for that. I mean, Jeff Hardy, that situation, we documented that. We talked about that on previous episodes. So it's going to be good to see him back. Now, I'm curious to see, are they just going to be the seventh really good tag team that's there? Like they get a hot little push, and then
they go to FTR.
Yeah, then they're FTR, or like now like best friends.
I mean, you wonder if they're going to start them out as a tag team, if they're going to be individual. I mean, with AEW, I mean, these are obviously the issues that you have. You know, their roster keeps getting blown up. They have 2 hours of they have 3 hours of television a week.
Yeah, that's why you're seeing
WWE has 3 hours of television on one night. They have 3 hours of television.
That's why you're seeing a lot of bigger tag matches, or like battle royal style matches, so you can get some names in there. That's what they're doing at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they keep hiring people. It is disappointing. As good as AEW is, and as much as we like people to go there, it's still only limited TV time. And
it's not. Yeah, there's not enough TV time to justify having all that talent just sitting in the back. I will say, if you do it the right way, there's enough balance. You don't have to have a Bryan Danielson wrestle every single Dynamite. Like if he wrestles like every other or every third or something, like you kind of you keep the rivalries going, but you're not getting too stale. If you can find the balance, I'm okay with it, because with a bloated roster, if you do it the right way, you're not having the same, like everybody. I know some people complain that Roman Reigns gets all the airtime in WWE. You're not going to get that in AEW because you can't. You got so much talent that needs to be used, so you use it. So for me, if you juggle it just right, which that's a fine line Tony's still trying to figure out, I think Tony Khan's trying to juggle that. But if you can find that fine line where maybe you don't overexpose certain superstars every single week, you might be able to get away with it. But you can't just keep adding talent just to add talent, just to keep adding talent. It's just, to me, it's not a good business model.
So this past Saturday afternoon, Elimination Chamber, like I said, I made a little YouTube video, post-Elimination Chamber video, but this is our first time talking about it on the podcast. Overall, good timing of the show. I'll say the good parts of the show are obviously the timing of the show was really good, in the sense of, we're not bloating to like these 4 or 5 hour shows anymore. It was a regular length pay-per-view. Entertaining from start to finish, whether you like the match or not. Entertaining from start to finish. I thought, with Goldberg, Roman Reigns, we kind of got what we were expecting.
Was
there.
it that great of a show?
I mean, I'd give it a B.
Man, you're nice. I was getting more towards a C. I wasn't in love with the show as much as you were.
It's crazy. The Elimination Chamber matches were both, and I said this on the video I made, is that they were very short.
Yeah.
They both came in at about 15 minutes apiece. Now, if you remember how Elimination Chamber matches are supposed to work, it starts with 2 people, and then a pod opens every 5 minutes. So 4 pods, that's 20 minutes right there.
Yeah.
So an Elimination Chamber matches averages around 30 minutes. 15 minutes is a very short period of time. The chamber pods were opening for both between 90 seconds and 2 minutes. Obviously you'd have a 15-minute match. That's what you got. And obviously with the Brock Lesnar one, you didn't even have all the pods open. He just busted through in Bobby Lashley's spot.
I made a pretty accurate prediction about Austin Theory. He did make it to the final 3, and actually
he did make it to the final one, and not necessarily a good showing. Essentially, but he
took a nice spot.
He took a bunch of nice spots.
Yeah,
and he made it so that it wasn't just a quick Brock Lesnar finish. Made it a little entertaining there at the end. Somebody who did not take a good spot, Madcap Moss. That's probably the big talk of the show. Yeah, is that spot right there, landing right square on his head in the Drew McIntyre match.
Thankfully, he's okay. That's the big thing.
Yes.
That's the most important thing. Aside from that botch, if you want to call it a botch, the match was actually okay. It wasn't a terrible match. Like I'm not a huge Madcap Moss guy, but I like Drew McIntyre. For what it wasn't a bad match.
Now, they advertised that about 30,000 people were at this show, which, again, I'm not at the place, but I've mentioned this, and I mentioned this in the video, and I kind of mentioned this going into the event, is that WWE was kind of going hard on the aspect that this was the largest concrete dome in all of the world, which I guess is more like a technicality. Because if you were to hear Michael Cole literally say over and over and over again prior to the show, during the show, this is the largest concrete dome in all the world, you immediately think, well, AT&T Stadium's a dome, so that's made of concrete. This is bigger than that, right? You just think like huge, large stadium. You think big house. You think AT&T Stadium. You think there's going to be 100,000 people in there.
You know what's funny? You just hit on something, because we just talked about, I think it was last week or the week before. It's almost like WWE saying, like, if it's spread over 2 nights, we got 100,000 people. Maybe it was 50-50.
Yeah, so it was about 30,000 people could fit into this place. It mostly is like a convention center, kind of a big convention center floor with seating. And if you could even if you watched, I know 33,000 or 33,000 is nothing to sneeze at when it comes to a crowd, but the fact is that they're literally trying to make you think that this is a 100,000 seat by their description, that this is a 100,000 seat plus stadium. It is just meaning that from the concrete dome, essentially the dome structure part starts at the ground and goes all the way to the other ground, instead of being like a top of a stadium like your traditional domes here in the United States. So that sense, yes, maybe it is the largest in that sense, but it is just just a bigger arena.
You know what I mean?
30,000. And I even dispute that number, because if most scenes you could see, there was no upper level. There was like a lower bowl, and you could see the top of that lower bowl because there was like a lighting structure that went around the whole top. And in most shots, you could essentially see where the dome, met the ground going to the top. Yep. I want to say that rigging that they put over the ring that makes it, again, feel like a stadium that they put for WrestleManias and Royal Rumbles, that was like touching the ceiling. So from a perspective, this was set up similar to any arena show. That set was no taller really than the traditional Raw set. It had a grander look, but if you looked at it and you looked at the wrestlers in comparison to the set, it was similar size.
I gotta say though, why the hell would you put Bobby Lashley in that position knowing he's been hurt?
Because it's all about storyline. It's all about how you're going to get the belt off him.
And now he's out for at least 4 months.
And I don't discount WWE's way to do that. If we didn't know he was hurt, and it was kind of something that was, in the world of WWE, which is hard to do, a little mysterious and not spoiled, I don't mind that. Because, again, you're trying to get the belt off of Bobby without just taking it off. Keeps it fresh. And, again,
I don't like the way they did it.
Bobby versus Brock, whenever they do meet, as a one-on-one match without interference, something we want to see.
You still could have done it, regardless. Yeah, he's hurt. Okay, roll it into something else later.
Again,
I don't like the way they did it though. Like,
I guess my thing is, how hurt was he heading into the Royal Rumble? Because if that's the case,
no, he was hurt. He got hurt at Royal Rumble.
So then that's a tough one. I would say if you knew he was hurt heading into the Royal Rumble, then you do it right then and there.
By all accounts, he got hurt in the Royal Rumble at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. That's why if you look during the match when he was taking Germans towards the end of the match, he was protecting the shoulder because he clearly was injured.
So now we have a winner-take-all championship match. What this is going to lead to, if this means the end of the brand extension, if this just means that Brock or Roman are going to be on both shows, Raw and SmackDown, is yet to be seen. Kind of another reason why we definitely don't need a 2-night WrestleMania, because we don't even have 2 world titles now. We have 1 world title match, and a lot of people are wondering which match is going to main event. And it's clear, obviously, which match is going to main event. I mean, let's not be silly here. There is going to be one match is going to main event Sunday, which essentially makes Saturday, again, not really feel so much like WrestleMania. It feels like a precursor.
I'll just give
to
it to
WrestleMania
you this way.
because the match that they are talking about is the must-see, once in a lifetime. You got to be there match is happening on one night, Sunday night.
Well, yeah, you got two nights. Here's what I will. This is a prediction.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see title versus title on Sunday night main event. Saturday, you will see. I think you're going to see Ronda versus Charlotte.
Yeah, because they're going to keep the title, the Royal Rumble winner thing fresh. I know a lot of people want Becky and Bianca, but here's the thing. We just saw Bianca last year, and Ronda is the attraction. And if we know WWE, they really like that attraction.
Of course.
Which is kind of funny. I want to add this kind of maybe to end the show this week, and that is I've seen a lot of people talking about other women's matches on the WrestleMania card. And some people have disputed me and said, it is 2 nights, which again, this is the 3rd year of it being 2 nights. So it's not like it hasn't been 2 nights before, but I see people talking about Naomi versus Sonya Deville. I hear people talking about maybe Sasha versus returning Bayley. And all I have to say to those people is it's probably not going to happen. And the reason it's not going to happen is because there is no instances of WWE, I mean, I can go back a ways, of having a women's match on WrestleMania, 2 nights or not, that is not a title match or a celebrity legend feud. Meaning if it's Lita and Trish Stratus teaming up to take on, some tag team, that's one thing. But if you're just talking Sonya Deville versus Naomi with nothing on the line, just a grudge match, WWE doesn't do that. Not just not WrestleMania, but not pay-per-views in general.
Yeah, no, that'll be on SmackDown.
Good or bad on WWE, whatever you think of if them not doing this, but they don't. Here's how the WrestleMania women's card is going to go. You're going to have your women's battle royal. You're going to have your 2 championship matches. And then if there is a 4th women's match on that card, it is going to be a Lita with Trish Stratus or some other celebrity. It is going to be what they call a special attraction.
Yep.
It is not going to be your traditional women's wrestlers. It is not going to be your Natty versus Naomi. It is not going to be Natty versus Aaliyah or any of that stuff. It is going to be... And you say, well, why would they do that? Why do they do it every year? We see Bray Wyatt as a champion in February, and then come WrestleMania, he's in the Battle Royal. Like, that's how WWE does things.
Yeah, that's how they operate. I'll just say this.
Not everything that you think deserves a feud or gets a match ends up getting that.
Here's my prediction, though. Besides the 2 matches Saturday and Sunday for the main event, I think Becky and Bianca, I think they're on the Sunday night show. Because I don't think they're going to have 2 women's title matches.
Yeah, no, I think you're going to spread that out. Yeah. I wonder, I guess... what matches again if you have the women main eventing on Saturday? I mean, you're gonna have if it happens, Stone Cold to Kevin Owens. I would probably say that's night number 1. That's gonna be your main event men's match for that night.
Probably if it's Stone Cold in Texas, sure.
And I will say about we talk about celebrity involvement.
I would still say Ronda's still the first. I think yes. Ronda Charlotte I think is still
that'll be the main event. But I'm saying I guess you have to have a big time men's match. Yeah, and a big time women's match.
If it's like a co-main. That's probably what I would.
Not even really like a co-main, just a women's main event, and then you have to have another big.
Stone Cold will be co-main.
Yeah,
I think Stone
Cold.
It'll
be the big match from the men's side we look forward to that night.
If it happens, we don't know yet.
Or it could be AJ versus Edge. I mean, it seems like we're going down that route as well.
Yes, I mean it's a lot of speculation. Speaking of AJ, good to see he got a big contract. I think he's over $3 million annually, so good for AJ. Means he's going to more than likely, you never can say definitively that he may retire as a WWE competitor.
I mean, he is getting up there anyway, so.
Yeah, I mean, this might be his last big contract with WWE, but as you can see, we've seen a lot of superstars. I mean, look at Sting. Sting's over 60. Yeah, look at Goldberg.
Look at all these people. And the thing about Goldberg is,
I think this is the last AJ Styles prime contract.
Goldberg is one of those people, too, that he somehow finds a way to lose all the time and then come back like that never happened. Like, he just lost to Roman Reigns, okay, but I could still see him coming around summertime and looking at Bobby Lashley and saying, you're next. Like, no one's going to beat me, even though, he's been beaten. He's got that, like, Bray Wyatt kind of syndrome where he has this, like, I can't be beaten, I'm unbeatable, but he never wins. He's got that new thing. It's crazy. He comes back, he challenges Roman and be like, you're next. You're not going to beat me. You're not the next Goldberg. I got you. And it's like, you just lost to Bobby. You just lost to Drew.
Yeah, it's like,
you lost to all these.
It's like, you think we forgot about that?
Yeah, and then he loses. He doesn't win the championship.
Can't win the big one these days.
But that's okay because, I mean, obviously, as we've talked about, we're okay with just not seeing Goldberg at all. One person I'm really okay with not seeing, as we'll end the show, is Logan Paul. This is how disappointed I am with Logan Paul. I literally was thinking and knowing that it was going to be Paul in the Miz thing when he said that he was going to have a tag team partner. I said, I don't want to see Jake Paul.
I was hoping it was Cody.
Oh, it's going to be Jake Paul. I mean, Cody, I don't want it to be Cody. Cody's too good for this.
I would have rather had Cody than Jake Paul.
No, because Cody's too good for this. This is
anybody's better than Jake Paul.
Well, yes, but I'm saying in this sense, we knew it was going to be some sort of celebrity. I knew it was going to be a Paul, but the whole time I was thinking it was going to be Jake Paul because I forget that there's an even worse Paul out there. It's literally like me telling you, guess who the guest referee of a main event is at WrestleMania, and it's a Baldwin. And you're like, oh, Alec Baldwin, I don't want to see him. It's like, you're not so lucky, Daniel Baldwin.
Yeah, it's like, well,
that's what we didn't want to see Jake Paul, and then when they said Logan Paul, I was like, oh wait, there's an even worse Paul. I forgot about Logan. I didn't want to see Jake Paul. So you can only imagine how little I want to see Logan Paul, even less.
It sucks.
And I think he really brings nothing, as we saw last year to WrestleMania, as he brought nothing then. And I think he brings nothing to this. But hopefully we bring something to your day. And thanks for watching the Heel to Face podcast and listening, as we will talk to you next week.